Hello, we're in the beautiful medieval town of Saint-Flour for stage 9. Although inevitably the beautiful medieval town of Saint-Flour has been partly obscured by several thousand tonnes of slightly less beautiful race and television infrastructure. But that's the price you pay for having the tour come to town. That and €100,000 wired directly to the bank account of the race organisers, of course. Now, we're still in the Massif Central. The really big climbs of the Alps and the Pyrenees are yet to come. Nonetheless, there are 8 climbs to get over on today's route, and in years past, this would have been exactly the kind of stage that would have been the launchpad for victory in the King of the Mountains competition. In fact, in the last 2 tours, it was exactly this stage. In 2010, Anthony Charteau got into a break on stage 9, swept up most of the points over the climbs along the way to take the polka dot jersey, and then pretty much held on for the rest of the race to win the competition. 2 years ago, stage 9 saw Franco Pellizotti doing pretty much the same, mopping up the early points while the overall contenders were saving their legs for later, and eventually snagging the spotted one for himself. And good for Pellizotti and Charteau, but they clearly weren't the best climbers in those races. More like compulsive uphill shoppers, manically collecting loyalty card points while more talented riders were being thrifty and saving their energy for the climbs that really mattered. Well, this year, and not for the first time, the race organisers have tweaked the rules to try to make sure that the bloke standing on the podium in Paris in the best climber's jersey is actually the best climber. There used to be points down to the 10th rider over the summit of the tour's most difficult climbs. That's been cut to the first half dozen. But more significantly, where there used to be double points on the final climb of the day, where a kamikaze attacker might lead the race, then crash and burn before the finish, this year there are double points only for the tour's 4 big summit finishes: Luzard-et-Den, Plateau de Bay, the Galibier and Alpe d'Huez. The idea is that the climber's jersey will be won almost as a byproduct of trying to win the race overall, or at least by someone aiming for a high placing, rather than a chancer willing to launch a couple of reckless attacks and hang on for the rest of the race. After his impressive ride in yesterday's break, the King of the Mountains competition is currently being led by the young American TJ Van Garderen, who's certainly a proper climber and perhaps a future contender for both yellow and polka dot jerseys. Still, today's route does have that kamikaze look about it, and unless he's got the legs to join today's escape, he's unlikely still to be leading tonight, because there are more King of the Mountains points on offer on stage 9 than on the previous 8 put together. Once they leave Issoire today, the riders will spend the whole day either going uphill or down. There's very little flat on the course. 8 official climbs, 3 second category, 3 third category and 2 fourth category, including the final nasty kick up to the finish in Saint-Flour. The last time the race came here, incidentally, was 2004. Not stage 9, but stage 10. Otherwise, it fits the chancer's template perfectly. It was a post-drug suspension Richard Virenque who ate all the points, taking a solo win to the delight of the French and the mixed disgust and indifference of everyone else, as he laid the foundation of his 7th and last polka dot jersey win. Of course, he was a true climber, at least Richard Virenque, although whether he was a true sportsman or not is a much murkier area for debate, and one we're not going to get into because we've got cycling to show you. So let's get on with stage 9. 188 men at the start in Issoire this morning, so we've lost 10 over the first 8 stages. Let's check the standings before we start. Tourousoft is still holding on to the longest second in Tour history. It's lasted a week so far. That's his advantage over Cadel Evans. Frank Schleck is third, then it's Andreas Klöden, Jakob Fuglsang, Andy Schleck, Tony Martin and Peter Velits. Now, the crashes continue on this tour, and they continue to affect the big names disproportionately, it seems. Alberto Contador was off yet again early in the stage, and rather worryingly didn't seem to have any teammates to pace him back into the race. In the end, he got there pretty much under his own steam after a bike change. Now, a group of 6 got away today, but it pretty quickly broke up, and out front on the descent of the second category Col du Pas de Pérol were Thomas Verkle of Europcar, Sandy Cazard of Française des Jeux, and Norman Stanley Juan Antonio Fletcher of Sky. Behind them, Johnny Hergeland had picked up enough points to make him the new leader of the mountains competition out on the road, although he nearly came a cropper on a left-hander coming down. Welcome back. Stage 9 has been the worst of the tour so far for injuries, and to big names too. The Astana leader Alexander Vinokourov is out of the tour with a broken leg. Omega Pharma's joint leader Jürgen van den Broek is out with a broken shoulder blade, and his teammate Frederick Willems has a broken collarbone. So that's 3 Omega Pharma riders down, after Jurgen van der Wallach went out earlier in the Tour. And Garmin Cervelo's David Zabriskie is gone too with a broken wrist. As we rejoin commentary, the 5 men out front are approaching the summit of the Col de Pradebouc with a lead that's still the best part of 5 minutes.
1 kilometre to go as they come up to the top of the Col de Prat, and still the same 5 riders are battling it away. They've not attacked each other. Common sense prevailing now. The same should be said for the peloton. They continue to close in, but it's pegged just now. Thor Hushovd will feel very happy with his day, but a little bit concerned that if he were to finish with this bunch, he would still lose his yellow jersey to the French rider Tommy Voeckler up front. This is a second category climb. It was 8 kilometres long, but the peloton have not raced up it as they might have done.
Just noticed sitting near the rear of the field, Christian van der Velde. It was reported he was involved in one of those accidents early on, but he's now back comfortably in the pack. And he's a rider who may well be thinking about also moving up in the standings. He started in 22nd place overall. He's locked in exactly the same time as his teammate Tommy Danielson.
Just to remind you who the 5 riders are, it's Luis Leon Sanchez of Rabobank, Juan Antonio Fletcher of the Sky team, Sandy Cassar of Française des Jeux, Thomas Voeckler of the Europe car team, and Johnny Hugeland of Vacances Soleil. They've been away after the first hour of the day. That was just soon after that they got away, about 43 kilometres. Voeckler attacked and was quickly joined by Hugeland, and then came Fletcher, and then Cassar, and Nicky Terpstra and Sanchez came up, but Terpstra was dropped on the first climb, so he's gone back into the field.
Well, Johnny Hugeland is quite happy to come and help with the pacemaking now, and Thomas Voeckler dropping down into 2nd position. We're right in the very heart of the Cantal, the mountains of the Cantal, in the middle of the Massif Central here, surrounded by the climbs we went over earlier, the Puy-Marie, and this is one of the highest summits there, as Johnny Hugeland got no problem at all there, Phil, to get maximum points again ahead of Thomas Voeckler.
Yeah, I'm convinced that they've got a little arrangement there. It's not allowed, of course, but when you're in a breakaway, you've all got your targets. The target now has switched from the King of the Mountains to the Maillot Jaune for Tommy Voeckler. He needs the strength of Hugeland as well, so he's obviously said to him, you can take the points in the mountains as long as you help me try to keep clear of the field to get yellow tonight. Deal done. Hugeland's got the points over Voeckler.
A little bit of chaos, just having a quick look here.
In fact, there's been a crash here. Oh, goodness me, that hit the side of the car.
Gee.
And that was the French television car going by him there.
Well, that was ridiculous. Well, they've got to get themselves back together, and that car came in and just whacked that rider. Normally, the car drivers in the Tour de France are experienced ex-professional cyclists, but that is bad luck for the breakaway. And tell you what, that guy went down extremely hard, and that was Juan Antonio Fletcher.
Well, you know, what happened to the motorbike when Nicky Sorensen, the champion of Denmark, was knocked off by a photographer's motorbike the other day. He was sent off the Tour completely, and I think the same might happen to that car now.
Well, that was Hugeland who went over the top of Fletcher and ended up in the field. There's a little bit of discussion going on here. They're calling for a medical car to come forward. These 3 riders now have been... let's have a look at it one more time.
That was well, he's been caught in a wired fence there, so he'd be ripped to pieces going into that fence, Johnny Hugeland.
Yeah, what happened there was the team car was coming by. There was a tree in the side of the road. The car tried to come around the tree, should have actually hit the brakes at the situation like that. And that is now Juan Antonio Fletcher. Phil, I wonder if he can get himself back into this race, and that is very unfortunate.
This is the climb. That hairpin left is the start of the climb now as Voeckler looks at the other 2. He wants to win the stage as well as take yellow. He's licking his lips, but you know, they will jump him. Somebody has got to go. There's a sharp right hairpin now right beneath the walls of the city. Then they'll slowly swing round to the left and come out into the square. And Voeckler has got to push on. He can't wait. There's no finesse now. He wants every second he can take out of this breakaway.
Well, he's riding. He really is doing a great job of work. He knows it's all about the time. I know he wants to win the stage if he can, but more importantly, he wants to give a big buffer for the yellow jersey to keep it for possibly a couple of days into the Pyrenees. He's looking over his shoulder. He probably feels that his biggest challenger will come from 131, Sandy Cassar. But watch out for a late move by Luis Leon Sanchez, because if he gets the jump and he gets 20 or 30 meters advantage, he'll be a hard man to pull back. He's a great solo artist.
The sharp right-hand bend is just after this red kite signifying 1 kilometer from the finish, and I think that's where Luis Leon Sanchez will put in his big attack as they come off that bend in the shadow of the chateau. And it looks as though he's really very, very tired now, but he's still trying to force a reaction. He still wants to win the stage, Thomas Voeckler. He wants to end it as a perfect day, and it's a big result for his new sponsors as well. But he's got to keep going. He wears the flashes on the cuffs of his jersey, a former champion of France. Lost the title. He finished third, in fact, just before the start of the Tour. Now, the right-hander is just ahead. He needs to ride round on the inside of the wall so he can force the moves to come through on his left shoulder, because he wouldn't be looking around like this if he wasn't thinking of winning the stage as well as taking yellow. The clock very much on his side here. The gap is 4:48 at the moment. He's in the lead of the Tour de France by 3 minutes tonight, but he still wants to win the stage as well.
Well, he knows what this race finish is like. He's been here in the Tour de France when it's been to Saint-Flour in the past. He knows where to make the effort. It's going to be a big effort. The sprint will probably not start, Phil, until around about that 150 metres to go, when they take the left-hander and finish into the alley of Georges Pompidou.
They are really, really tired. Well, they might be after this day of racing here, but that's why they haven't gone early, because they're not confident in their own ability anymore. And look at this. Voeckler has pushed them out in front. He's now riding behind them. He is going to attack these riders, and here he goes. That was a perfect move, and he's put it in. And Luis Leon Sanchez saw his shadow, Paul, and got the kick on him.
Well, he knew that was the moment to move, and Luis Leon Sanchez has got the power in those legs. Thomas Voeckler could not get onto his slipstream, Phil, and it looks like the Spaniard is going to get himself another victory at the Tour de France as Voeckler comes round. It's going to be a yellow jersey for Voeckler. He dreamed of the stage victory.
And in his favourite area here is Luis Leon Sanchez. He gets the victory. The clock will start now, and that's when we'll find out just by how much Thomas Voeckler leads the Tour de France when we restart from Aurillac on Tuesday. And Sandy Cassar, I think he really was tired. He's lucky to have hung on here to finish with the leaders, I think.
Well, a well-timed sprint there by Luis Leon Sanchez. He is a great rider. I remember when he won the Tour Down Under in Australia, everybody then, the Spanish press at that time, was saying this man will become the new Miguel Indurain, because he's a fantastic individual time trialist. There he got only his second victory of the year so far. As we go a little bit further out on the course, it's all about the time. It's all about how much this race is going to be led by Thomas Voeckler. Not a question of whether or not he will lead. The time gap is what we're going to be interested in now.
There is the melee of press around a Frenchman here, the first Frenchman to succeed. They didn't win the stage, but he's got his hands on the maillot jaune. This is now the battle of the fourth place, very important for the green jersey. Very interesting to see. Cadel Evans is interested in everything, and Andy Schleck is right with him, with Frank, Tony Martin. They can't afford to let a gap open of a single second. That's apparent.
Well, it was quite interesting to spot that the white jersey of Robert Hessing, Phil, who was in awful difficulty over the first few kilometres of the race today, is riding in about 10th position.
Well, maybe he's come through his bad patch. He was off the bat this morning. The leaders are under the last kilometre, still trying to get this perfect lead out here for Philippe Gilbert, if they can. They've got the man on the front, Jelle van Aert, to try and bring him up to the line. Schleck is sitting in. Oh, and it's the crowd there, and that, I don't know what happened there, but that almost caused the peloton to go down. Now, Philippe Gilbert is lining up. It looks as though Cadel Evans might be taking him on.
Well, Cadel Evans sitting right on the wheel. Look at the gap. In fact, this race is completely splintered. Levi Leipheimer is in this group. Most of the heads of state. There's Alberto Contador in about 5th position. Over to the right-hand side, you've got Peter Velets, Tony Martin on the left-hand side in the white jersey of HTC. And further back down the road, well, it's not surprising, really, to see there's TJ Van Garderen.
Yeah, TJ's lost his polka dot tonight, the American, and Thor Hushovd has lost his yellow. The battle is being enacted here. Philippe Gilbert trying to finish it off now to get himself the 4th place. Cadel Evans happy to ride in his slipstream, but not challenged. Gilbert sprints away here to get the 4th place. He's had a great day in the green jersey competition, and all these points are going in the bank. He's getting himself quite a lead in that, but Cadel Evans will chase anything that moves. He's just dropped back 1 place here to Velits as Velits comes up, also finishing strongly. Watch out for Peter Velits for a high finish in this year's Tour de France. Cadel Evans, Frank Schleck, Tony Martin and Andy Schleck, they're all over there, but there is a time gap from there. But the time clock is saying it to be about 2.5 minutes, 2 3/4 minutes tonight in yellow for Voeckler.
Knowing that his long run in the race lead was over, Tourousov treated the last few hundred metres as the walk up the 18th fairway at Augusta. Here's what happened on the stage. Luis Leon Sanchez took it comfortably from Thomas Verkler, who was taking the yellow jersey and won't have been overly disappointed. Sandy Cazar realised he was beaten and didn't bother. Once again, Philippe Gilbert led home the rest. Mark Cavendish's teammate Peter Velits tried to deny him the points for fourth but couldn't. Then came Cadel Evans, Andy Schleck and Tony Martin. Frank Schleck was 9th, Alberto Contador 12th, both in that lead group. Nicholas Roach led home a Group 407 down that included Robert Hesing, Geraint Thomas, Ivan Basso and Andreas Klurden. David Miller and Tourousov finished 81st and 82nd in a group 6 minutes 47 down. Tourousov gives way to one of the few non-winners who's held the jersey for longer than he has, Thomas Verkler, who kept it against all odds for 10 days in 2004. The stage winner Sanchez is up to second, 149 down. Cadel Evans is now third at 226. The Schlecks are getting closer as a family, separated by 1 place and 8 seconds. Then it's Tony Martin, Peter Velits and Andreas Klurden. Philippe Gilbert is 9th, Ivan Basso 11th, a couple of places ahead of Nicholas Roach, who's 3 ahead of Alberto Contador in 16th. Tourousov drops to 24th, David Miller is 28th, Geraint Thomas 32nd, and the day's 2 hit-and-run victims Hogeland and Fletcher are 80th and 90th. So, France's leading rider and hugely popular Harry Enfield lookalike Thomas Verkler takes the yellow jersey with real relish to give the home side something to celebrate going into the rest day, although he's under no illusions that he can repeat his run of 2004.
You know, I think I only have 2 minutes on the rider like Cadel Evans at the overall. So I'm not a dreamer. I will just fight and give all I can. And I know that it's impossible for me to keep it 10 days like 2004, but one thing is sure, is that tomorrow I can keep the jersey because it's a rest day.